Okay, so this is my current sort of sewing job list, if you like. I'm just going to rest it on the table because it's a bit heavy. My feeble little arms. Hopefully you can still see the information on the top that we need to be looking at. So, what's on my board? I have rubbed off the pinstripe skirt because of course I finished that last week. What else do we have? We have the lounge skirt. Now that is the pink velveteen. This pink is rather lovely, and I have a little less of this. They didn't have as much, so this I've only really got enough for a sort of longer length skirt. And again, I thought I'd make something incredibly simple, no pockets, just really just a tube, basically a tube with a waist. I also have some braces. Now I mentioned these as well in a previous video where I've got these old braces and the elastic has gone. These are beautiful leather button braces. They are, on the back of here says made in New Zealand. This is all beautiful full grained leather. I got them for $3 at a charity shop. Now the elastic has definitely gone. When you pull it goes like that. And the elastic is gone, but all of the clips and catches and all of the connectors and everything are beautifully in leather. And I think that I can probably use all of the fittings and fixtures, the end, the little piece in the middle, and remake these braces. The plan I had was to actually make the braces out of fabric similar to the pattern that I used to make my land girl inspired trousers. So I was going to make them out of fabric and then just put a little bit of elastic in the back, which I thought would work quite well. I also have a winter pinafore here. So in the winter I find that I tend to wear more separates. I've just found over the years that in summer, certainly in New Zealand, I tend to just wear dresses. I just throw a dress on, bit of underwear, job done. That's all I've got for a summer day. It's easy, pair of sandals, out the door you go. It's warm, it's reliably warm here in the summer, so that's all I wear. In the winter, I need more layers, so I tend to wear separates in the winter. So what I've found is that if I make separates for the summer, I tend to not wear them very much. And if I make dresses for the winter, again, I don't wear them very much. Pinafores are perfect. I have that denim pinafore which I did some adjustments on in several videos ago. That I wear all the time. It is so easy to wear. I also have another pinafore which I made, which was the apron dress by, I can't remember. This is the pattern. It is the assembly line and it is the apron dress. And I made this in a navy canvas, very much like the image and very much like the picture they have on the website. And I really love it and have worn it to death. So I could probably make another one of those, but I have this in my wardrobe at the moment, so I'm not going to make another one of those, but I do love this one. So I wear pinafores in the winter. Then you can layer merino tops underneath, you can put cardigans and jumpers on the top, works a treat. So winter pinafore, another one of those is on the list. What I have is a couple of vintage patterns. So I have this one. This is actually in a really old envelope, and there is a little article, like a paper article in here from a magazine. Actually, this might give me a date. No, how often should you take a laxative? Always good to know. But anyway, there's a pattern in here which I believe is, what is the pattern? Oh, I think the pattern is that jumper. So that jumper, oh, can you see? So that jumper there, that is the pattern that is, it's a knitting pattern in here. So maybe this person was planning, oh, I think that's what they were planning to do. Actually, this is the knitted jumper underneath, and then of course this is the pinafore or jumper, I think you call it in America. So I thought that's really lovely. I do like that. So I have this one, and it comes with its little knitted partner top to go with it. So I have that one, which is very tempting. Full skirt, I'm not great with full skirts. I don't like a gathered skirt, but this one is a pleated one, so that might be okay. Then I also have, this is a more modern one. This is, again, I mean, all of these are from charity shops, so this one again is a more modern one, maybe from the 80s or something, I would think, but it's a little bit more of a traditional sort of pinafore. That's quite nice too. And then I have this vintage one, no date again, a vintage butterick, which they've got the little tops underneath. Obviously you can make it as a dress, but they've also got little tops underneath. The bit at the top is torn off, but it says something proportioned jumper. So the jumper, I think, is this piece here. So I could do that one as well. So that's another option. The other pinafore idea that I had is something I've seen, I think, on Pinterest, and I have it pinned on my style board. So I'll pop that image up here as well as something that's really quite appealed to me. And I have some grey, it's what I would consider a sort of school uniform fabric. That's what it feels like to me. I mean, I don't know if it was actually sold as school uniform fabric. I think that it's probably wool. It feels like wool, but it may be a mix. This one doesn't have the label on. It may be a mix, but I just thought, oh, it'd be really cool to do a sort of a school uniform-esque type pinafore. I just thought it would be quite fun. Now, there is actually, in one of my Enid Gilchrist books, there is actually a school uniform pattern, but it's for a child. But children up to the age of 14, and I'm not that much bigger than a 14-year-old child, so actually I could do an actual school uniform. A coat. I have some coating up in the top. I have a couple of things that could be coating weight, to be honest, and I bought it years ago at the urging of my husband because he said, oh, look at this, isn't it gorgeous, you should buy this, da da da. So I did, never used it. So this is the fabric that I have for my coat. Quite a big heavy amount. Now what does it say? It still has the label on it. So what does it say it is? 90% wool, 10% polyester. It's quite a decent amount actually. It's 150 centimeters wide, and there is 290 centimeters. Oh, so it's nearly 3 meters. Nearly 3 meters of it. And it was down to $46 from $92. So really quite pleased with that. It's got nap, and the colour isn't coming up very well. It looks very blue, but it's not actually blue. It's like a turquoise. That's really weird. In the camera, it looks like a sort of, like a really clear blue. It's actually teal. And then I have this lining, which I found, and I thought, oh, that would be perfect. I'm not quite sure what this is made of, but the pattern is good. So if you see these two things, I mean, they look really good together. So the idea was, and I don't know how much I've got of this lining either, but I can always line the sleeves in something else if I don't have enough. But the lining I thought was rather, just matched beautifully actually. I think it'll look really nice. I have this vintage coat pattern. What size is it? It says it's a size 12, bust 34, so that should fit me. Now this obviously has multiple pieces. They've got, it's a jacket, which can also be a longer coat. There's a dress underneath. The coat can be buttoned, it can have a tie belt, or it can be a jacket with a belt. But it's just really a very simple, sort of what I would call a duffel coat, but that's probably not what you would call it, so I don't know, but it's just a very simple coat, and I think that would be quite nice to make. And this is the one that's appealing to me, the one, probably something that just comes past my hips. Clothing and coats and things that cut off at my hips at my widest point are not ideal, so probably a little bit longer than that, but I don't think I have enough fabric to do anything that's too much longer, so the length would be sort of up for grabs. I think if I made it shorter, then it's more of a jacket, and I was looking for a coat, so I think it would be slightly longer, but again depending on the fabric. But this is the style I have in mind. I also think that it looks relatively simple. So it's got patch pockets, and it's just a sort of a shawl collar, buttons down the front. So I think that I could do that without too much drama. Merino tops, see aforementioned winter pinafore. I would like to make some merino tops. If you remember, again, several videos ago, it was a failed merino dress, grey merino dress. I tried and I tried and I tried to pull that out of the failed bucket, it wasn't coming out. It was well and truly stuck in that failed bucket. So I've done everything I can think of to make it work. What I've decided to do is totally give up, reuse the fabric where I can. It's a wrap skirt, so there is plenty of sort of flat panel pieces to work with. So I'm going to make a merino top just using that as fabric. I've also got some other pieces of merino in my stash. As you would see, I did do actually a sort of a stash audit video quite some time ago now, but I do have that stash audit video, and if you look at that you'll see that I do have quite a lot of merino fabric. Where would it be? These folders are essentially my homemade patterns that I use all the time. I do sometimes keep patterns from things that I make over time, but then eventually I throw them out, because if I've made something once and then I'm not likely to use it again, I don't tend to hold on to it. But so for instance, I have like a folder full of pockets. There'll be like waistbands in here as well, so that I can pull those out from various projects. But then usually I draft something from scratch when I'm doing it, or it's an adjustment of an existing pattern. So again, that is very specific to that pattern. Bicycle seat cover in here as well. Look, that's a pattern for a bicycle seat cover. You need that now and again, you know. The husband's waistcoat is in here as well, because I will be planning to make him another one of those, because he did like it. And this next time I would go the whole full hog and sort of add in the welt pockets and all the bits. T-shirt knit top. So it's got this particular pattern in here, has a 3/4 sleeve and a full length sleeve version. What I made with it was a blue sort of mariniere blue striped t-shirt, which I really liked. I also did my little merino tops that I took traveling. It has a wide boat neck in here. So I can use this as well as my blocks. So I want to make a top that actually has like a little short neck. My daughter tells me that that's called a mock neck. Not a term that I've ever used before. And then I would want to have the full length sleeve on this. And then, yeah, the round neck I can take from my blocks, because I have a stretch top block, so that has a neck that comes up to here. So then I shall take that rather than the boat neck, and then I shall try and work out this mock neck piece that goes on top. I do have various patterns with that, but how hard can it be? It's just a bit of fabric, isn't it, that it needs to be the size of your neck. I do have a particularly skinny neck, but I also have a small head. So the thing here is that this needs to be able to get over your head and then be reasonably close fitting. So I shall work that out with trial and error, I think. So I have that pattern, and I do want to make a couple of those. I will probably make one or two with this mock neck. I will probably make one or two with a boat neck. I do like a boat neck because I have quite narrow shoulders. I find a boat neck sort of has that line that sort of widens your shoulder. So I will do a boat neck, and then also I find if I have a neck that comes up close like this, again that makes me taller and again accentuates the widths of my shoulders, if you like. So that works quite well. The sort of necks that don't suit me are just sort of up to the neck round things. That's bad. Anything that's massively plunging, that's not me either. So I sort of know the types of necks that work for me. A square neck is very nice, but I wouldn't do that in a knit top. So anyway, all to play for. That is essentially what I'm going to do with the tops, and also some merino leggings. Now don't worry, this is not me all of a sudden deciding that I'm going to start walking around in leggings and a sweatshirt like, you know, is the fashion. This is underwear. So what I actually do in winter is I wear leggings under my skirts, sort of in place of tights. I mean, I do wear sort of nylons and tights sometimes, but if it's extra cold, I like to wear a merino wool legging underneath, and then I just pair that with some socks and boots to be nice and warm. So merino leggings is on the list. I have tried to perfect my own pattern. Leggings clone. So with the leggings, what happened was Many years ago I bought some leggings from Glowing Sky. Yes, and it's a New Zealand brand, Merino leggings, and they fit beautifully. They didn't have a tight elasticated waistband. They had a sort of a, well, it was just self fabric, but it worked really well. And so what happened was I took a pattern off that, and it wasn't very successful. They tended to ride down. I have got some bits of merino in there which are lower quality, and I'm planning to make some sort of wearable toiles to see if I can get this pattern correct, because if I can get the pattern correct, that's brilliant. Then I can just knock them out, boom boom boom, when I need them. So that is definitely on my list to do that work. Now it's going to be tricky, because if I video it, I'm actually going to have to show you what I look like in leggings, which is horrifying to me, because honestly you don't want to see that. So I've got to figure out how to do this without standing in front of YouTube in just a pair of leggings. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out yet, but anyway, it's on the list. But that's yeah, needs to be done at some time soon. So underneath my sewing table I have a shelf, and that shelf has a sort of works in progress sort of along it, and it's pretty full with works in progress. So yeah, the doll is just comfortably sitting in a project bag sitting underneath my shelf. So she still needs her dress made, because she is naked at the moment. So we'll need to do something there. The doll dress will be made out of scraps from my scrap box. So I just need to, I've got a bit that I think will be perfect. It's sort of right for the era, because she's a sort of a sort of a 60s, late 60s doll, and I think this fabric that I've got is perfect for that. And the last thing I have there is a Pashmina. The Pashmina project is essentially this. I got this beautiful Pashmina from my new in-laws, which was absolutely lovely. And it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautiful pink colour. Absolutely love it. But I have tried to wear this. The colours in the trim are just not my colours. I just don't have anything in this sort of peachy orange colour or this sort of lime green colour. It just doesn't seem to go with anything, and I think, oh, that's a lovely colour, let's put that on. And then when I put it with what I want to wear it with, it doesn't really work. So I had the cunning plan of, could I just cover those pieces over with a little edging of some description. So I went to the fabric shop, this was ages ago, and found this viscose, which is a really gorgeous, deep, rich, I mean, I don't know if the colours are coming up the same. They're probably not. I think on camera they look quite different, but in reality they're very, very similar. Now this one has a sort of a really shiny side, and then it also has a sort of a more matte side, which again, very, very close to the pink of the Pashmina. So my plan essentially is to cut strips of this and then sort of edge or cover up this piece here. And I'm thinking I could just sort of edge it, like fold it over the edge, so that, and then stitch it down so that it sort of covers both sides of this embroidery, because I love this colour. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. It goes with loads in my wardrobe, but every time I put it on, this green and peach just doesn't go with the outfit. And of course, under there I do have projects that are in a mending pile. Is this the mending bag? This is the mending bag. Okay, so what is in here? This is the hat that I have. It is, as you can see here, this is so ratty, and that's coming out, as you can see there. That needs fixing, but it's a lovely hat. I mean, I really like, oh, actually I was just going to say, will it fit with my, what I found with my hair, growing my hair, is that it's made my head bigger. Isn't that bizarre? But I never thought about it before, but because I have no hair, especially on the sides, I had a really small hat size and it was difficult to find hats. I've still got a small head, but I found that now I've got more hair, the hats are fitting better. So, but this does still fit, and I do really like it. It's black, and I don't usually wear black things, but this, as you can tell, is very old and is from the days when I used to wear more black. So that needs fixing. I have some handmade socks in here that I have loved for a very long time, and they are mad stripy, but they need darning. The balls of the foot are wearing thin. Probably wouldn't take me that long, would it? And then I could put them back in my wardrobe. But darning socks, that's what I've got there. I have these gloves. If you remember, I'll link the video. It was if I've got enough links left, because I've linked quite a few. These I got from the charity shop. They're very, very small. They're beautiful, fine, really fine leather gloves. I can't make out the inside. So something like Fredola or something. Made in France, definitely. They have this damage here. You see, it's just come unstitched. And so I need to fix those really before I can wear them. If I wear them now, I risk damaging them more. So I really just want to try and fix them. I have some very, very, very fine, this is very, very fine old-fashioned silk thread, which I got from a charity shop, which would be the right colour and which I could really just fix these up. Again, probably a 2-minute job, but in the mending bag. What else do we have? The other things that I have in here are 2 more braces. So these braces we got when we were in France because there was a sale and I found these, and they are men's braces and they have button closures. Because if you remember, on my Land Girl inspired trousers, I've put buttons on them to fit button braces. Now whether these would go, I don't know, but they were on sale and I thought brilliant. But of course, they are enormous. I mean, I could literally hold my socks up with these braces at the moment. Way too big for me. I don't want to be messing with all the fittings and the clips at the end. I think that will just get difficult and complicated. But I figure if I take this middle bit and just unstitch, shorten the elastic that goes into them and restitch, I could make both of these into functional braces for me. So that's what I have in my mending pile. Although technically, I suppose, technically these braces aren't mending, are they? They should probably not be in the mending bag. So this is sort of a mending and altering bag, I think. I found something else. Ties. I have 2 silk ties that I bought from a charity shop a while ago. I saw on Instagram that somebody had made the most amazing belt with ties sort of together like that. And I thought it looked so cool. I thought I want to make one of those. And when I went to the charity shop and I found 2 ties that are in my colours that look really nice together, that's what I wanted to do with them. So I also under here have a tie belt. That needs to go on the list as well. So my plan really is just to sort of work my way through this board. Now I have tried doing that before, and what happens is I rub something off and then I fill in the gap with a new project. So I never actually have an empty board. The only time I've had an empty board recently was when I actually used the board for my Art Deco project. But usually this board has ongoing things on it and I never get to the end of the board. So the big plan that I have is, could I actually do all the jobs on the board and get to an empty board without continually adding new things on there? That's my plan, because I would really love to get all of these things cleared off my board. I would love to have an empty mending and altering bag. I think that would make me feel good. Is there anything else under? There's that shirt. There's that shirt. Do you remember in the last video I told you that there was that shirt pattern which needs the pattern made? I should add that to the board. That's what I'll do. Make the shirt pattern from the shirt. I can then throw that shirt away and I have the shirt pattern. Right, I'll add it to the board and then everything under here will be on the board and I will work through it piece by piece. Do let me know, do you have ongoing projects? And also, how long have you had works in progress? Can anybody beat my 8-year-old work in progress? You need to have had something started more than 8 years ago and then completed it. Do please let me know. What was that project? What stalled it and what prompted you to finish it and get it in your wardrobe? Anyway, I am going to add on the shirt project here. I'm going to go along my shelf and see if there's any other sneaky little things that are hiding under there, and I'm going to add it to the board. And then I'm going to try and work through this, and you'll have to hold me to account. But of course, plans are very useful, and I don't think I have ever actually followed one to completion. Oh no, I tell you, I'm going to add one to the top. See, look, I'm doing it already. Maybe I should say this is the last possible time that I'm allowed to do that, because then the board will be full. So I want to add one here onto this board. I do want to make a vintage slip that comes down to the length of the skirt, at least knee length. All of the slips, well, I have a couple of slips, but they're all modern, so they basically come to thigh length, which is not ideal because I actually want them to go further down. I never wear a skirt that needs a thigh length slip, but all of them just sort of stop. You can't even see, can you? But all of them just sort of stop here, which is a pain. So I want to make a vintage knee length slip. I have the pattern and I want to test it out of some linen, or I have some linen sheeting in there. You know, it's the linen sheeting that I actually used to do the petticoat in my 1 hour 1920s dress for my Art Deco project in Napier. But I still have the linen in there, and I want to do a linen slip, a vintage linen slip, as a mock-up, because I have all that beautiful silk which I would like to hand stitch into some sort of vintage silk slips. That's my idea. So I'm going to write that down. Vintage slip. The reason it's vintage is because most modern slips, when you see them, are cut on the bias. So they're sort of one piece, like this one is the one I'm wearing. They're cut on the bias so that they have to go across the fabric, and they rely on modern quantities of fabric. That bias cut means that it has movement and you can slip them over your head. Now, the silk that I have that I want to make the slips out of eventually is very narrow. It's about this wide, and it was from the kimono shop. You remember I got those rolls of silk. So it's quite narrow, which means that I need to make some sort of princess seam vintage slip that isn't cut on the bias and is just cut straight. The way they did it was they would have an opening here with hooks and eyes and poppers. So that's why it's a vintage slip, not a modern slip. So this is the vintage pattern. Hopefully you can see the line drawing there. So it's princess seamed on the grain. Now, how wide I will be able to make those panels, I'm not sure, but there are 6 panels all the way around, so I should be able to do that. So, and I do like the little French knickers as well. I think they're rather cute. So I would like to try and make those. It is, see, this is interesting, isn't it? Bust 34 inches. Size 16 in this pattern, so clearly these patterns change the sizing quite radically. So size 16 at bust 34, which should be right for me, so perfect. I haven't actually checked the pattern pieces. It's a very old pattern with punch holes, so we'll have to see if it's all in there. Very careful when I put these away, I don't like to damage them. Right, so that is the pattern I'm going to be using for the vintage slip. So that's all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Lucky 13. So I've got 13 projects on the board that I want to try and work through. Just thought of something else. I haven't actually added on my board all of my mending. So I am going to need to squeeze it on. I've got those gloves to fix, I've got those socks to fix, and I've also got my hat. So they also need to go on the board. Will it fit? I think it will. I'll just squish it up a bit. So those are my upcoming projects. Follow along and see me make all of those different bits. It'd be great if you could hit the like button if you enjoy my content, share with friends, click the little bell, do all those wonderful YouTube things. That would be amazing. And I will see you next time. Bye.